The unrelenting roar of artillery fire echoed against the chalky cliffs of Normandy, piercing the cool dawn air on June 6, 1944. Soldiers in rigid formations, clad in olive drab and weighed down by gear, faced a scene of chaos that would forever haunt their memories. Beyond the surf, painted in hues of blood red and emerald green, lay the German-occupied coast, a battleground where countless lives would intertwine in a desperate struggle for freedom. As the landing craft bobbed violently on the choppy waters, anxious expressions betrayed the steely resolve that had been instilled in each young man. Today would test them in ways they'd never imagined. Among the throng was Private First Class Henry Mills, a 22-year-old farm boy from Iowa. The moonlit night had been a restless one, filled with the murmurs of older men recounting their pasts, the clanging of equipment, and the ominous thudding of distant artillery. Now the last vestiges of night were fading just as the warmth of home felt like a distant memory. Henry remembered the smell of freshly tilled earth, the laughter of his siblings, and the tender yet firm guidance of his father, who believed in standing tall against adversity. War, he had said, was the ultimate test of character. With squinting eyes, Henry looked out at the shoreline. Beach obstacles, barbed wire, and ominous pillboxes rose like jagged teeth from the landscape, waiting to bite back. They were not just fighting to reclaim land, they were fighting for lives lost, for those back home, and for the fragile threads of hope that bound their allies. He felt the uneasiness gnawing at his stomach, but buried it deep beneath layers of resolve. As the landing craft slammed into the sand, his heart thudded in rhythm with the violent pounding of artillery nearby. This was it. As the ramp of the landing craft dropped, chaos erupted. The exhilaration of adrenaline surged through his veins, pushing him to leap into the waves. Water surged around him, chilled and murky, obscuring his footing. Shouts and orders drowned in the din of combat. Men slipped, fell, and were swallowed by the relentless surf. Here was no landscape of the Midwest. Here was a living hell screaming for resolution. Bullets hissed past him, and the roar of engines above blended with the cries of wounded men, echoing like the howls of anguished souls. Henry pressed forward, a soldier forged in the fires of urgency. He spotted Private James "Jimmy" Sullivan ahead, his boyhood friend from neighboring Nebraska. Together they had trained, laughed, and sworn to watch each other's backs. As Henry struggled through the surf, he saw Jimmy stumble, a sudden burst of terror painting his face. Before Henry could utter a warning, a shot rang out, and time slowed. He felt the air ripple around him as if nature itself lamented the tragedy unfolding. In one gut-wrenching moment, Jimmy fell, crumpling to the ground as Henry's heart ceased its thumping. Clinging to the fragility of the moment, Henry crashed down beside him, the taste of salt mingling with the metallic tang of blood in the air. Jimmy's eyes, wide with fear, met Henry's gaze. "Don't leave me, Henry," he wheezed, his breath growing shallow as warmth seeped into sand around him. Henry fought back the rising tide of panic, desperately grasping for calm amid the storm of emotions. "Stay with me, buddy. Help is coming," he stammered, the conviction in his voice warring with the dread unfurling in his chest. He knew in that fleeting moment that fate was cruel, their dreams of returning home reduced to a mere thread, fraying dangerously against the backdrop of gunfire. Around them, men ran with a mix of determination and terror, rushing toward the beachhead, bullets snapping overhead like vengeful wasps. From their positions, the Germans were relentless, rifle fire unmistakably giving shape to the battlefield. Machine gun fire cut through the surf, and for every inch gained, it seemed the price was a brother, father, or son lost forever. Through the fog of war, Henry rallied alongside fellow soldiers and clambered toward the goosebump-inducing defense line. He took a breath, held his rifle steady, and returned fire with a mix of rage and despair. Each shot felt celestial, echoing as an act of defiance against fate. He could feel the weight of those they'd lost pressing upon him, instinctively urging him forth. Just moments later, a sergeant bellowed orders, galvanizing the men around Henry. It was now or never. They needed to push inland. Tension crackled through the air as artillery explosions lit up the evening sky, casting fiery shadows across the harsh terrain. Each blast shook the ground beneath their feet, and the cold wind carried with it the sense of gunpowder and the ferment of fear. "Let's move," the sergeant shouted, snapping Henry back to the present. No room for weakness, no time for tears. Jimmy would not want that. Taking a deep breath, Henry ran toward the sea wall. the heavy sound of his bootsteps swallowed momentarily by thunderous cannonades. Around him, fellow soldiers darted for cover, panting heavily. The adrenaline mingled with exhaustion. Henry pressed forward, determined to find a vantage point from which he could pick off the enemy and cover his brothers. The ragtag formation of weary soldiers around him pushed onward. The shore behind them was littered with the ghosts of men, the price of honor, etched across the sand. The cacophony of war seemed unending, punctuated by the agonized wails of fallen comrades. Yet within the cacophony, something deeper resonated. It was the bond of brotherhood, men coming together amid chaos, united against a powerful adversary. Each soldier he passed seemed to exchange silent promises, pledging to fight not just for survival but out of love for the lives they had left behind, family, friends, and dreams that had once seemed so vivid. As they ascended the embankment, secured slightly by the artillery fires above from the Navy and air support, the enemy's stronghold came into view. Henchmen of the Nazi regime loomed in the concrete bunkers, their silhouettes dark and ghost-like against the burning sky. The realities of fear collided with an unspeakable resolve within Henry. He wanted to retrieve the boyhood dreams of those like Jimmy from the dark abyss of the world. The attack pressed on without a flicker of hesitation. Quite astonishingly, through the haze of smoke, a handful of men saw an opening in enemy defenses. Amidst the violent exchange of gunfire, they called for a rush, sand displacing beneath their weight as they ran forward with unshakable determination. The sound of their collective heartbeats created a rhythm that overshadowed the chaos. Now, move. Seconds turned to hours as adrenaline shifted into overdrive. A corner was inevitably turned, momentum surged, and with it a delayed counterattack from the Germans ensued. They could taste victory, but the enemy was equipped with enough lethality to make every inch of ground a grave for the forlorn. Behind the defensive lines, Major Tom McBride, a seasoned officer with an aura of quiet authority, orchestrated the unfolding plan. He was not merely directing troops, but engaging in a heartfelt deliberation of lives against the motives of a tyrannical enemy. He trained his binoculars on the enemy's stronghold and radioed for support. "We can't falter now. Push through." His tenor remained unwavering, even under the fire that rained down like an unholy storm. Meanwhile, Henry's resolve was tested further. He glanced sideways, catching sight of Sergeant Mitchell, who was reloading ammo while shouting orders to a trio of trembling recruits. Thus, the foundation of courage laid before him took root. Sweat mingled with the salt of the Atlantic, streaming down his brow as he pressed further into enemy territory, inching toward his ultimate goal, the sound of human lips whispering freedom amid the ruins of a broken world. And then it happened. The battle hung in a tenuous balance when a deafening explosion rocked the area, throwing Henry off his feet and slamming him into the harsh ground. He blinked against the dust and fog, aware only of the ringing in his ears and the fire dancing before his eyes. The air became thick, and the familiar saltiness of the sea morphed into the iron tang of blood. Lurching upright, he faltered, searching desperately for anything within the haze. It was then that he realized the horrific aftermath. The embankment had become a burial ground, the bodies crumpled in agonizing poses, some still alive, yet succumbing to a tragic fate. "Jimmy!" he screamed, and a churning despair echoed through his very soul. Time ebbed as he stumbled toward familiar faces, counting the breaths of those still fighting. But time was cruel, wrenching the fabric of hope apart. With effort, he reached the line of fire. "Sergeant!" He fought through the cacophony, desperate to know if anyone had escaped the hell that unfurled within his mind. He felt an arm grip his shoulder, pulling him steady. It was Sergeant Mitchell, his face a mask of tension. "We're nearly through. Keep pushing." Fueled by that simple command, Henry pressed on. They mounted a final assault aided by artillery fire raining down from naval ships. Euphoria shot through the battered men as they pushed forward, seizing control of the northern flank, silencing positions that had rained fire down upon them so mercilessly moments before. But victory came at a steep price. The somber reality of loss became intertwined with the elation. Amidst the boisterous cheers of exultation, Henry loomed over Jimmy's lifeless body, heartbroken disbelief clawing at his insides. In that moment, triumph ceased to possess meaning, and all Henry felt was rage and sorrow fused into a most agonizing lament. Weeks passed as the dust settled on Normandy, the screams of the fallen echoing like a lamenting choir in the minds of the survivors. Allies advanced, battles surged onward, and yet, for Henry, the specter of loss hovered like a specter, casting its long shadow over every victory. Transitioning from shock to grief, he found solace in the camaraderie forged through hardship. Still, beneath that visceral bond lay unending pain. Days morphed into nights filled with memories of laughter shared, promises sworn under a sky that once held infinite hope. On nights where gunfire ebbed, men gathered around campfires, sharing tales of the fallen.
honoring their sacrifice through camaraderie and humor. Each story, punctuated with laughter, drowned out the echoes that refused to be silenced. Henry learned to live despite the grief. He fought through the pain to honor the memory of Jimmy, a brave soul who deserved no less than a legacy. He wrote letters to his family back in Iowa, conjuring stories of home, weaving each epitaph into words he shared with his mother. Each letter became an anchor amid the swelling tides of war, binding him back to a life of gentility amid the chaos that enshrouded them. As the months wore on, the D-Day landings became but another chapter in a sprawling saga. The tides of war ebbed and flowed, weaving the tapestry of humanity stamped with resilience. Each battle waged bore the marks of tragedy but also etched the promise of victory. And amid the battles, it was in the quiet moments of reflection that Henry recognized the depth of grief was matched only by the strength of the human spirit. The war extended beyond the beaches of Normandy, reaching fervently into the heart of Europe. With each advancing day, every sacrifice built the momentum toward freedom. Against this brutal backdrop, the bonds of brotherhood, hope, and sacrifice shone like pillars of light against despair. Henry embraced the legacy that coursed through him, carrying the voice of the fallen as a whisper of courage to fuel the desperate plea for survival. In the end, even as Henry's boots crunched over the debris left in the wake of battle and his fingers traced the folds of a tattered letter, he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer a mere farm boy. He was forged, a living testament to resilience, and though not all would return home, their spirits echoed in the storms of time, a reminder of the fight for freedom, history demanding remembrance of this indelible struggle against the darkness that sought to envelop humanity. In his heart resonated a common refrain, that the fight was never just for survival, but for a hope worth believing in, for freedom, and for those lost who would one day find their way home. Each step forward became not merely a march toward territory regained, but an everlasting stand against the tides of tyranny. Thus, with the flames of courage lit, the journey beckoned forward, finding light amid darkness and hope amidst despair. As he pressed onward, Henry carried with him the echoes of every soldier lost, transforming them into voices guiding him on the path ahead.